Too old to date? Nora's voice trembled, loud enough for the restaurant to go quiet. Say it again, Logan. I want to hear how proud you are. Glasses froze halfway to lips. Forks hovered over half-cut steaks. At the center table, under the soft glow of Manhattan's most expensive chandeliers, her ex-husband laughed. Too loud, too cruel. I'm just being honest, he said, raising his martini. Nora's almost 40. That's retirement age on the dating apps. The table erupted in nervous laughter. Nora's cheeks burned. Shame, rage, humiliation, all braided together. Across the room, a tall man in a charcoal suit watched the scene unfold with unreadable eyes. In 7 days, his name, and hers, would be printed in gold letters on a glossy magazine cover. Adrian Cole and Nora Hayes, the new power couple, rewriting the rules of age. The moment would replay in Nora Hayes's mind like a looped video, every cruel word, every forced chuckle, every sideways glance. But right now, she was still living it. The private room at Belladonna, one of Manhattan's trendiest restaurants, smelled of truffle oil and expensive cologne. Dim chandeliers cast flattering light over smooth faces, diamond bracelets, and the kind of curated laughter that only came from people who'd never worried about overdraft fees. Nora had not wanted to come. She'd almost bailed 3 times on the Uber ride over. Once at the red light on 5th, once when she saw her reflection in the restaurant's mirrored entrance, and once when she heard Logan's laugh booming from inside the private room. But Lena, her oldest friend and the newly engaged queen of this dinner, had begged. Please, Nor, you have to come. You're my maid of honor. It's one dinner. You'll sit at the other end of the table. You won't even have to talk to him. Lies, all lies. Not because Lena meant to deceive her, but because there were some things you just couldn't control. Like Logan when he was drunk. Like Logan when he had an audience. Like Logan when he needed someone to stand on so he could feel tall. Come on, man, that's brutal, one of Logan's tech buddies said, though his grin never faltered. Too old to date. You're savage. Logan leaned back in his leather chair, the tailored navy suit stretching over shoulders that used to feel familiar to Nora. I'm just saying what we're all thinking. He jerked his chin toward her. No hard feelings, Nor. You know I respect you. Just, you know. He made a vague, spiraling motion with his finger. Biology. Heat crawled up Nora's neck, prickling behind her ears. She was 40, not 80. Her life was not over. Her heart knew that. Her rational mind knew that. But humiliation had a way of shoving logic into the nearest closet and locking the door. A camera flashed. Nora turned instinctively. At the far end of the room, a photographer hired for the engagement dinner was snapping candids, laughing faces, clinking glasses, perfect moments to be posted later with blessed and engaged life. Just what she needed, immortal evidence of this moment. She reached for her wine glass and misjudged the distance. Her fingers clipped the stem. Red liquid sloshed over the rim, staining the pristine white tablecloth. Of course, Logan said, smirking. Some things never change. The table chuckled again. Not because they were cruel, Nora knew, but because social gravity always pulled people toward the loudest planet. Lena shot her a helpless look. Nora steadied the glass and forced a smile. Don't worry, she said. I'll try to age more quietly next time. A few people coughed out guilty laughs. Logan rolled his eyes. Relax, I'm kidding. Besides, you're doing great for your age. You've got, what, a few good years left. He winked at the woman on his right, Jessie, the 25-year-old lifestyle influencer who'd replaced Nora in Logan's bed, his Instagram feed, and apparently his long-term plans. Jessie giggled and squeezed his arm. You're terrible. Nora's hand tightened around the stem until her knuckles turned white. She could have stayed silent. She could have taken a sip of wine, focused on her plate, pretended she didn't hear, pretended it didn't matter, pretended she wasn't breaking inside. But something snapped. Maybe it was the way Logan's words reminded her of all the times he'd suggested baby Botox when she was 33, or the time he'd said, women peak at 28. It's science, babe. Maybe it was the way Jessie's eyes slid over Nora like she was an outdated model on a sales rack. Or maybe it was simply that Nora was so very tired of apologizing for existing in a body that dared to accumulate years. She placed her glass down carefully, the clink louder than she expected. "Say it again," she said, her voice clear and steady, slicing through the laughter. The table went quiet. Logan blinked. "What? You heard me?" She met his eyes, refusing to look away. "Say it again. You told everyone your ex-wife is too old to date. Say it to my face, Logan." Silence pressed against the walls. Even the waiters seemed to pause. A muscle ticked in Logan's jaw. He glanced around, realizing he didn't have the full crowd on his side anymore. "Nora, don't be dramatic," he said lightly. "It was a joke." "Was it?" Her chest rose and fell under the simple black dress she'd chosen because it made her feel elegant, not young. "Because jokes are supposed to be funny. I'm not laughing." Lena muttered, "Guys?" But no one heard her. Logan's ego bristled. He adjusted his cufflinks. "Look, I'm just being realistic. The dating market is cruel. Men your age are chasing younger women. I'm trying to help you manage expectations." Nora's heart cracked, and then, unexpectedly, something inside it hardened. "Thank you, Dr. Hayes," she said, her tone icy, "for your expert diagnosis of my expiration date." A waiter entered with a tray, froze, and quietly backed out again. Logan huffed a laugh. "Come on. You really think you're going to find some great guy at 40? Be serious. Men with options don't choose." "Women like me," she finished for him. He shrugged. "Past a certain age, sure, that's just how it is." Nora stared at him. Years flooded her. Late nights editing his pitch decks, cheering in cramped conference rooms when investors said yes, cooking dinner while he hustled, believing they were a team, believing she wasn't replaceable. The humiliation didn't vanish. It still burned, ugly and bright, but something new flared beneath it, a molten, unfamiliar anger that felt almost like power. "Then it's a good thing," she said quietly, "that I don't plan to date men with options as small as their imagination." A soft oof travelled down the table. Logan's smile faltered. Before he could respond, a discreet voice spoke from behind Nora. "Ms. Hayes, I'm so sorry to interrupt." She turned. A man in a perfectly cut charcoal suit stood beside her chair. He had dark hair swept back from a strong brow, a day's worth of stubble, and eyes the color of winter rain. He looked familiar, but she couldn't place why. He wasn't part of their group. She was sure of that. There was something self-contained about him, a quiet confidence that didn't need witnesses. "Yes," she managed. He inclined his head. "The manager asked me to extend our apologies for the disturbance." His gaze flicked almost imperceptibly toward Logan. "We value all our guests. If you'd like a quieter table, we can arrange that. Or a car, if you wish to leave." Nora blinked. I'm fine." His eyes said he knew that was a lie. "It would be our pleasure," he said softly. "You shouldn't have to sit through this." Logan bristled. "Hey man, this is a private event." The stranger didn't even look at him. Lena's eyes darted between them, wide. Across from Nora, someone whispered, "Is that—" The man extended a small card toward Nora. No logo, just a minimal embossed name, A. Cole, and a phone number. "If you change your mind," he said, "call this, any time." Then he gave her a faint, almost secret smile, like they shared a joke no one else at the table was privy to, and walked away. Nora stared at the card. Her pulse pounded in her ears. Behind her, a couple at another table murmured, "That's him. That's Adrian Cole." The name hit her like a dropped glass. Adrian Cole, founder of Cole Media Group, Billionaire, owner of half the glossy magazines and streaming platforms people at this table boasted about being featured on. The man whose face occasionally appeared on finance covers with headlines like "The Most Elusive Power Broker in Media." Logan laughed too loudly. "What was that? You collect pity now, Nora." Pity. The word scraped over raw skin. Nora closed her fingers around the card. She didn't leave the dinner. Not yet. She stayed, smiled, played the role. But the humiliation settled into a hard, sharp place inside her, right next to the little white rectangle of cardstock burning in her palm. By the time dessert arrived, she'd made a silent promise. She was done being the punchline. They wanted to say she was too old. Fine. She would show them what a woman too old to date looked like when she stopped shrinking herself to fit into rooms built for Logan's ego. Somewhere in this city, a man like Adrian Cole had quietly told her she didn't have to stay where she was diminished. Somewhere in this city, opportunity had just brushed past her in a charcoal suit. She didn't know yet that in 7 days her face would be pressed against his shoulder on a magazine cover the entire world would see. She only knew one thing. This was the last night she would ever let Logan define her worth. The next morning, humiliation arrived before the coffee. Nora's phone buzzed relentlessly on her nightstand, vibrating against a catalogue she'd fallen asleep reading. Women over 40 doing it all. Yesterday it had felt like aspirational inspiration. Today it felt like the universe mocking her. She groaned and burrowed deeper under the duvet, wishing she could hide from her notifications, her memories, herself. 3 new messages from Lena, 2 from their mutual friend Priya, 1 from a number she didn't recognize. She stared at the screen, dread crawling up her spine. Lena: "Are you okay? Please say you're okay." Priya: "Girl, what you said to Logan. Iconic. But also, are you all right?" Unknown: "I apologize again for the disturbance last night. AC." Her heart stuttered. AC. Adrian Cole. She sat up too fast and nearly knocked her water glass over. The room spun for a second, then settled into focus. Her small but cozy apartment. Sunlight leaking around blackout curtains. Plants she kept half alive on the windowsill. The framed photographs she took as hobbies, because Logan once told her, creative careers are cute side projects, not real jobs. She rubbed her temples and tapped the message. Unknown: "I apologize again for the disturbance last night." AC. No emojis, no presumptuous familiarity, just a quiet acknowledgement. She flopped back on her pillows. Why would a billionaire media mogul text her? Why would he care about one woman's humiliating dinner? "Because he saw it," a small voice answered. "Because he saw you." Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. She typed 3 drafts and deleted them. "No worries, it happens. Delete." "Thank you, it was mortifying, but I'm fine. Delete." "Did you mean what you said about not having to sit through that?" Delete. Finally, she typed, "Thank you for checking in. I overreacted. I'm sorry you had to see that. Nora." She stared at the message, hating the automatic apology even as she hit send. A reply came sooner than she expected. "You didn't overreact. Some men confuse cruelty with honesty. I'm sorry you were on the receiving end." Her throat tightened. He didn't say your ex-husband. He didn't say that guy. But somehow the word "some" felt like protection. She chewed her lip and typed slowly. "Either way, thank you for intervening. You didn't have to." 3 dots appeared, vanished, reappeared. "I have a low tolerance for bullies, especially at my favorite restaurant. May I ask you something, Ms. Hayes?" She sat up straighter. "Sure. Do you actually believe what he said about you, that you're too old?" The question lodged in her chest. Did she? Images flickered through her mind. Dating apps where men in their late 40s filtered for 1832, the way salesgirls pivoted to Jessie instead of her when they'd gone shopping once, Logan's offhand comments about tight skin and fresh faces. She'd never put it into words, never said it out loud, but sometimes, in the quiet of her apartment, when she caught herself in the mirror, when she saw the faint lines around her eyes that no cream could erase, a little voice whispered, "You missed your window." She stared at the blinking cursor and did something that felt terrifying. She told the truth. "Sometimes," she wrote. "Sometimes I do." His reply took longer this time. She filled the silence by making coffee and popping bread in the toaster. The kettle whistled loud in the quiet kitchen. Her mind kept trying to rewrite last night, scripting perfect comebacks she wished she'd said as Logan held court. Her phone buzzed. "That's a shame," his message said. "Not because it's sad, but because it's objectively untrue." She snorted into her mug. Objectively untrue. Who talked like that? "You don't know me," she typed. A beat. "I know our magazines have been chasing you for a while. Nora Hayes, right? Art director at Luma Creative. Your work on the Quiet Power campaign won 3 industry awards. I've read your name on more decks than I can count." Her heart slammed against her ribs. "Excuse me," she said aloud to her empty kitchen. The next text arrived before she could process. "Plus, I watched a woman handle public humiliation with more composure than most CEOs manage in a crisis. So yes, I have some data points." Nora put the mug down with a clink. "You know my work?" she whispered to no one. Luma Creative was a mid-sized agency. They handled campaigns for beauty brands, tech startups trying to look human, and the occasional non-profit. Adrian Cole owned half the media outlets that ran their ads, but he lived in rarefied air above people like her, or so she'd thought. She resisted the urge to scroll through his Wikipedia page for the 100th time. She already knew the basics, self-made, started with a tiny online music blog at 19, scaled to a streaming empire, then bought distressed print magazines and turned them into digital juggernauts. Net worth, more zeros than she could conceive of. Relationship status, perpetually rumored, never confirmed. Why was he texting her like they were peers? "I didn't realize you'd seen my work," she replied. "We're usually 3 steps removed from whoever signs the checks." He sent a single line. "I try to know where the magic actually happens." A laugh slipped from her, surprising in its lightness. She leaned against the counter, watching morning light creep across the tile. Objectively untrue. The words wrapped around the raw place inside her like gauze. "Okay," she said softly. "Okay then." Her phone buzzed again. "I have a proposal, Ms. Hayes. Not personal, professional. Are you open to hearing it?" Her pulse kicked up. "I'm listening." Cole Media is developing a new feature for Tide magazine, our flagship. A cover story, actually. Working title, Age is Power. We want to spotlight women over 40 who are changing their lives, not despite their age, but because of it. I'd like you to consult on the visual direction. Possibly be in it. Nora's brain short-circuited. Cover story, women over 40. Possibly be in it. She sank into a chair. "Is this a prank?" she muttered. As if hearing her thoughts, his next message came. "This is real, unless you're too busy proving bullies right." Heat flared in her chest. "Oh, he did not," she said. "Bold of you to assume I'm cover material," she shot back. "You heard the man. I've got a few good years left at best." "Exactly," Adrian replied. "Let's put them on glossy paper and beam them into a few million homes. Have time to talk today." A part of her recoiled. It was insane. She was not cover material. She had a 12-step skincare routine and a war with gravity she was losing slowly but surely. The last time she'd been in front of a professional camera was at her wedding, and they'd cropped the arms she hated. But another part of her, smaller, stubborn, whispered, "What if this is the door out? Out of Logan's shadow, out of the narrative that had boxed her into past her prime, out of her own fear." She looked around her apartment, at the half-finished vision board she'd started after the divorce, with magazine clippings of women laughing in power suits, at the post-it that said, "Build something that's mine." Her fingers trembled as she typed, "I can talk at noon. I have to be at the agency by 10, but I can take lunch." "Send me an address," he replied. "Somewhere you feel comfortable." "And Nora?" Her stomach flipped at the shift to her first name. "Yes?" "Let's start from the assumption that you are, in fact, cover material. Makes my job easier." The screen blurred. She blinked until it cleared. Nora grabbed her coffee, headed for the shower, and caught her reflection halfway there. She looked tired, eyes puffy from crying, hair tangled in a messy bun, faint lines etched near her mouth. Too old. The thought flickered automatically, conditioned. But now something else surfaced behind it, objectively untrue. She smoothed a hand over the glass as if she could touch the woman looking back. "Let's see what happens," she whispered. When she stepped out into the crisp fall air an hour later, Adrian Cole's card sat in her wallet, and his proposal hummed like electricity under her skin. She didn't know that at that very moment across town, Logan was bragging to a table of investors about how he'd traded in his ex-wife for a younger model. She didn't know one of those investors sat on the board of Tide magazine, and she definitely didn't know that by agreeing to meet Adrian at noon, she was stepping onto a path that would lead not just to a magazine cover, but to a reckoning that would shake Logan's carefully curated world to its core. The cafe Nora chose for the meeting was exactly the opposite of Logan's world. No velvet ropes, no curated influencer corners, no $9 lattes served in mugs with gold rims. Just a neighborhood spot on the Lower East Side with scuffed wooden floors, white subway tiles, and chalkboard menus listing drinks in messy handwriting. The air smelled like espresso and cinnamon. Steam hissed, spoons clinked, conversations hummed. Safe. She arrived 15 minutes early and immediately regretted her choice of outfit. Jeans, a white blouse, a navy blazer. Clean and crisp with silver hoops and the good lipstick that made her feel pulled together. Professional enough for a client meeting at Luma, but suddenly amateurish for meeting a billionaire who probably lived in custom Tom Ford. "What was I thinking?" she muttered, adjusting her blazer. "Ms. Hayes?" She turned. Adrian Cole stood in the doorway, and somehow he didn't look out of place at all. He wore dark jeans, a black crewneck sweater, and a wool overcoat. No tie, no obvious designer logos. Just a man who knew exactly how valuable he was and didn't need to advertise it. In the bright light of day, she saw details she'd missed last night. The faint scar near his left eyebrow, the shadows under his eyes like he didn't sleep enough, the way his gaze seemed to take in everything at once. "Mr. Cole," she said, rising. "Adrian, please," he said, extending his hand. His grip was warm, firm. He didn't squeeze too hard, didn't do the controlling palm-down thing some men did. Just a straightforward handshake between equals. The thought startled her. "Thank you for meeting me," she said. "Thank you for trusting a stranger who handed you a card in the middle of a social disaster," he replied dryly. She huffed a laugh. "I guess we're both risk-takers." He smiled, and for a moment she glimpsed something softer beneath his polished exterior. "Can I get you something?" he asked, gesturing toward the counter. "I already ordered," she said, holding up her latte. "But you go ahead." He came back a few minutes later with an Americano and a small plate of lemon cake. "I guessed," he said, setting it between them. "Everyone I know who works in creative buys something citrus when they're stressed." She arched a brow. "Is that backed by data or a personal theory?" "Personal, but I have a good sample size." She eyed the cake, then him. "And how did you know I work in creative?" He shrugged. "I told you I know your work. Also, people who tolerate that kind of public humiliation at corporate events are usually tied to the money men in emotionally complicated ways. Wives, girlfriends, or the talent. You didn't look like someone whose power came from who she was dating." She blinked. "That's Oddly specific. I pay attention to patterns, he said simply. May I? He slid a sleek black tablet onto the table and tapped the screen. A mood board blinked to life. Images of women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, laughing, working, striding through city streets, some in suits, some in overalls splattered with paint. The headline at the top read, "Age is Power, Tide Cover Feature." Nora's throat went dry. "This is the project I mentioned," Adrian said. "We've been developing it for months. I greenlit it after my mother turned 60 and told me it felt like she'd become invisible overnight." Nora swallowed. "Invisible," she echoed. He nodded. She said men stopped looking at her, salespeople stopped offering help, young colleagues acted like she was on her way out even though she'd just led a campaign that broke every record the company had. That stuck with me. "It's real," Nora said quietly. "That fade out." His gaze sharpened on her. "You've felt it," he said, not a question. She looked down at the tablet, at the women who looked like her and yet more luminous. "Sometimes I walk into rooms and feel like a before photo," she admitted, "like everyone's just waiting to after over me." Anger flickered in his eyes. Not at her, she realized, but on her behalf. "That's exactly what I want to dismantle," he said. "We've run plenty of features about 40 under 40 and 30 under 30. I want to print 40 over 40 on the cover and mean it." Nora's lips curved despite herself. "You'll get letters," she said, "angry ones." "I love angry letters," he replied. "Means we touched a nerve." She studied him. What kind of man talked like this? Not just about ROI and market penetration, but about his mother's invisibility. Logan had never asked how aging felt to her, only how it looked on him. "So where do I come in?" she asked. Adrian swiped to another page. This one showed an early mock-up of the cover, a faceless silhouette, a placeholder for the woman they'd choose. Around it were notes, bold, unapologetic, not anti-aging, but post-apology. "We have brilliant editors and art directors," he said, "but they're mostly under 35. I wanted someone who lives this, who understands what it means to build a life, lose it, rebuild. Your campaigns, they have a way of making the subject look like the hero of their own story, not a product of ours. I want that." Her chest warmed. "I don't know whether to say thank you or accuse you of stalking my portfolio," she said. "Both are acceptable responses," he said, straight-faced. She laughed. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Here's my idea," he said. "We feature 4 women from different fields. Business, art, activism, something unexpected. Their stories, their faces, unfiltered. You consult on creative direction, and one of those faces is yours." Her breath caught. "Adrian, it doesn't have to be the main cover," he said. "We can do variations by region, digital covers, alternate editions, but I think the woman who helped build campaigns about quiet power should be seen owning hers." Panic fluttered under her ribs. "I'm not—" She gestured at the mock-up. "I'm not that." "Define that," he said. "Stunning," she said bluntly. "Flawless. Whoever you put there is going to be examined under a magnifying glass. Pick the wrong woman and the internet will eat her alive. I'd rather not be served as breakfast." He sat back, studying her. "I didn't say flawless," he said. "I said unapologetic. There's a difference." She looked at him, genuinely confused. "Unapologetic how?" "By existing loudly at an age you're not supposed to," he said. "By letting cameras see the years on your face and not apologizing for them. That's more radical than you think." She swallowed hard. She thought of last night, of the way Logan's words had sliced her open, of Jessie's smooth skin and the way everyone's eyes had drifted toward her, defaulting to youth as value. "You're asking a lot," she whispered. "I know," he said softly. "That's why I asked you." They sat in silence for a moment, Around them, life went on. Orders shouted, music playing, someone laughing too loudly in the corner. Nora felt as though the world had narrowed to the small circle of light around their table. She picked up the tablet, swiping through the rest of the deck. Someone, maybe Adrian, maybe his team, had annotated images with notes in the margins. No softening, no euphemisms, no still beautiful at. Her thumb hovered over one comment circled in red. What if the before is the after? What if this is the goal? Something cracked open inside her. You said this was professional, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. But this feels personal. He nodded. It is. Every big thing I've done started out as personal. I don't know how to make anything else. She believed him. For reasons she couldn't articulate, she believed him more than she'd believed anyone in a long time. What's the timeline? She asked, surprising herself. His eyes lit just a fraction. Fast, he said. We want to coincide with our fall issue. That's next week. Her jaw dropped. Next week? And we'd shoot end of this week, he added. I know it's quick, but I move on momentum. I don't like giving people time to talk themselves out of things that could change their lives. She stared at him. Change my life, she repeated. It's just a magazine cover. He smiled faintly. You of all people know media is never just. Besides, it's not about the paper, it's about the narrative. Right now, your ex-husband believes you're aged out of the story. I'm offering you a chance to write a different one. Logan's smirking face flashed in her mind. Too old to date. Retirement age on the apps. She felt the burn of humiliation again, but now it mixed with something sharper, cleaner. Resolve. What exactly would consulting entail? She asked, slipping into professional mode because it was safer than emotional freefall. Creative direction, sure, but how involved? He outlined it. Meetings with the editorial team, mood boards, shot lists, working with the photographer to set tone. The kind of work she did at Luma, except this time she wouldn't be behind the curtain. She'd be standing in front of it. And if I say no to being in it, she asked. You'd still consult, he said. You'd still get paid. You'd still make something powerful. I won't force you in front of a camera. He paused. But I'd consider it a missed opportunity. She swallowed. Fear whispered all its usual lines. You'll look old. The internet will be cruel. Logan will laugh. You'll embarrass yourself. But another voice, small but insistent, countered, or you'll finally stop living on the defensive. What about conflict of interest? She asked. My agency works with some of your brands. Luma might not love me moonlighting for the client. Adrian's mouth twitched. Leave Luma to me, he said. We've been quietly discussing a direct partnership anyway. This might accelerate that conversation. Her eyes widened. Are you saying? I'm saying, he interrupted gently, that your employer has been undervaluing you for years. We can restructure that too. Too much, too fast, and yet. She thought of going back to the office today, sitting in a glass box while 28-year-old account managers pitched campaigns built on her exhausted creativity, taking home a paycheck that barely justified the way she lived in constant low-level burnout. She thought of Logan's smirk. She thought of the women on the mood board. You didn't overreact. Some men confuse cruelty with honesty. Slowly, she nodded. Okay, she said. I'll consult. We'll see about the camera. His smile wasn't triumphant, it was relieved. Good, he said. My team will send paperwork and initial drafts this afternoon. I'd like you at the Tide offices tomorrow morning, 9 sharp. Is that possible? Her calendar flashed in her mind. Internal meeting at 10, a client call at 3, nothing, she couldn't move. Yes, she said. It's possible. He stood, slipping his tablet back into his bag. Nora, he said. She looked up. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I think the world would be lucky to see you the way I saw you last night. Standing up for yourself in a room where it would have been easier to stay small. Her throat closed. She cleared it. For what it's worth, she managed. I think the world already sees more of you than it deserves. Try not to collect too many more distressed damsels in restaurants. It's bad for your mysterious image. He laughed, a low, genuine sound. I'll keep that in mind, he said. As he left, a young man at the next table leaned toward his friend. Dude, he whispered. Was that? Adrian Cole, the friend breathed. Yeah, and he just had coffee with... Who is she? Nora sipped her latte, the taste suddenly sweet instead of bitter. Who is she? For the first time in a long time, she felt like the answer might be something new. She had no idea that across town, Logan was signing a preliminary partnership agreement with one of Adrian's venture funds, or that the board member listening to him brag about trading in his ex-wife was already texting Adrian a single line. You were right. He's a problem. The universe was quietly setting the stage. The story was shifting, and Nora had just agreed to stand under the brightest lights. The offices of Tide magazine weren't as sleek as Nora had imagined. They were chaotic, in a good way. The elevator opened onto a maze of desks covered in mood boards, coffee cups, laptops, and stacks of glossy pages. Walls were plastered with past covers, actors, activists, athletes, all frozen mid-laugh, mid-stride, mid-defiance. Ms. Hayes, a woman with cropped silver hair and neon blue glasses, appeared, hand extended. I'm Saffron, creative director, huge fan of your Quiet Power campaign. Thank you, Nora said, trying not to gape at the organized storm around them. Saffron swept her into a glass-walled conference room where a small team was already assembled. Photo editor, copy chief, stylist, assistant with a laptop open and fingers flying. Adrian stood at the end of the table, sleeves rolled up, tie nowhere in sight. He nodded as she entered, and something in her chest loosened. Everyone, this is Nora Hayes, he said, consultant on Age's Power. Treat her like she owns the place, because for this project, she does. A ripple of laughter moved through the room. Nora flushed. Please don't put that on a badge, she said. Saffron clapped her hands. All right, kids, let's talk about flipping the bird to ageism with pictures. For the next hour, Nora lost herself in what she did best. They spread out mock-ups on the table, pinned images to a board, argued about color palettes and body language. Nora pointed out subtle cues that screamed anti-aging, even when the copy said it wasn't. Soft focus, downward gazes, hands delicately covering wrinkles. If we say we're celebrating age, she said, tapping an image, we can't visually apologize for it at the same time. No blurring lines, no fixing jawlines. Let them stand. The team nodded, scribbling notes. Adrian watched her with quiet satisfaction, occasionally weighing in but mostly letting her steer. Okay, Saffron said finally, planting her hands on her hips. I have one more proposal. Adrian's going to frown, but that's my cardio for the day. Adrian arched a brow. Dare I ask? It's about the test shoot this afternoon, she said. We already booked the studio and photographer to try out lighting and setups with a stand-in. I say we don't use a stand-in. Nora frowned. Meaning? Saffron grinned. We use you. Nora's stomach dropped. Me? She croaked. For lighting tests only, Saffron said quickly. Not final images, just to see what works. It'll give us real data on how to shoot this feature so our subjects don't look airbrushed into oblivion. Nora looked at Adrian. He held up his hands. I didn't put her up to this. Liar, Saffron said cheerfully. He absolutely did not object when I suggested it. Nora's pulse raced. Test shoot, cameras, lights, every insecurity she'd ever had about being photographed surged to the surface. I'm not prepared, she said. I didn't bring anything. Outfits, makeup, whatever models bring. Saffron waved a hand. "We have racks of clothes and a small army of makeup artists who specialize in you, but slept 8 hours and drink a lot of water. It's low stakes. We don't use anything without your approval." The photo editor chimed in. "Honestly, real skin helps us see what the lighting actually does," she said. "We're tired of test shooting on 19-year-olds and then wondering why our 40-plus subjects look completely different on the day." Adrian spoke softly. "This is yours to decide, Nora," he said. "If you're not comfortable, we find another way." She swallowed. The safe answer was no. Safety meant staying behind the camera, behind the strategy, behind the scenes. Safety meant letting other women be brave while she wrote copy about their courage. But she thought of the mood board, of women who had stepped into the frame and stayed there, and of Logan. The next time he told someone she was too old, what did she want to be true? That she'd stayed small? Or that, somewhere, there existed photographs of her staring into a lens and refusing to hide? Her hands trembled, but she forced them still. "Okay," she heard herself say, "I'll do it, as a test." Saffron whooped. "Yes, the universe loves a woman on the edge of a panic attack." "Comforting," Nora muttered. 2 hours later, she stood in front of a full-length mirror in the studio, barely recognizing herself. The makeup artist had done something witchy. Nora still looked like Nora, but brighter, more awake. They hadn't erased her laugh lines. They'd just softened shadows, let her skin glow. Her hair, usually in a messy bun by midday, was blown out in loose waves that grazed her shoulders. The outfit they'd put her in was simple: high-waisted black trousers, a white silk blouse, a sharp blazer the exact color of midnight. She stared at her reflection. "You look like the boss," Saffron said behind her, munching on a carrot stick. "That's the brief." "I feel like I'm pretending," Nora admitted. Saffron met her eyes in the mirror. "We're all pretending," she said. "But here's the trick. Do it long enough, and eventually you're not pretending anymore." Easy for you to say, Nora thought, but she smiled anyway. A nervous assistant poked his head in. "They're ready for you on set." Set. The word made her knees wobble. She stepped into the studio. White backdrop. Massive soft boxes glowing like moons. A camera on a tripod that looked more like a weapon than a tool. Staff darting around, adjusting things, speaking in shorthand. The photographer, a woman named Mariella, with sleeve tattoos and pink hair, waved. "Test subject. My favorite kind. No pressure, all fun." Nora laughed hollowly. "Define fun." "By the end of today, you'll know," Mariella said. "Ready?" "Absolutely not." "Yes," Nora lied. They started slowly. "Just stand," Mariella instructed. "Hands by your side. Look at that tape mark on the wall, not the lens. Click, click, click. Okay, now roll your shoulders back. Relax your jaw. You're not getting your driver's license renewed. You're about to fire someone who underestimated you." Nora exhaled, picturing Logan in the chair across from her. Her posture straightened. "Good," Mariella murmured. "Now eyes to me." Nora met the lens. Instinctively she wanted to soften, tilt her head, smile in a way that begged approval. "Don't smile," Mariella said. "Not yet. Just exist, like you don't need anything from us." Something loosened in her chest. She let her face go neutral, let her eyes stay steady. Click, click, click. "Beautiful," Mariella said. "That's the one the trolls will hate and every woman over 40 will screenshot." They tried different setups. Blazer off, sleeves rolled up, leaning against a stool, laughing, not laughing, hands in pockets, arms crossed, chin lifted. Each pose felt like a tiny rebellion. At some point, Nora forgot to be terrified. She started suggesting ideas. "What if the hero shot isn't dead center?" she asked. "What if we frame her slightly off, like she's walking into the frame instead of already settled there?" Mariella and the photo editor adjusted angles, nodded, tried it. From the edge of the studio, Adrian watched. He stayed mostly in the shadows, talking quietly to Saffron, checking his phone occasionally. But whenever Nora glanced his way, his attention snapped back to her, steady and unflinching. It wasn't the hungry look of a man undressing a woman with his eyes. It was the focused gaze of someone witnessing, cataloguing, adjusting plans in real time. During a break, Nora stepped off the backdrop and grabbed a bottle of water, chest heaving slightly from the adrenaline of being watched. Adrian approached, hands in his pockets. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Like I'm about to throw up," she said honestly, but also weirdly alive. "Good," he said. "That mix usually means you're doing something important." She studied him. "You do this a lot?" she asked. "Push people into things that terrify them." He considered. "I offer them doors," he said. "They choose whether to walk through. You walked." She looked down at her hands. "They're just test shots," she reminded herself as much as him. "Nothing's decided." "Nothing is decided," he agreed, "but that doesn't make them less real." The way he said it made her stomach flip. Saffron called them back to the monitors. "Quick review," she said. "Let's see what our test subject looks like." Images filled the screen, one after another. Nora braced herself. She expected to wince, to zero in on every perceived flaw, to flinch at seeing herself under unforgiving studio lights. Instead, her breath hitched for an entirely different reason. She looked powerful, not flawless, not smoothed into oblivion. There were lines near her eyes, a faint freckle on her cheek she'd always covered with concealer, the slight softness under her chin that had arrived around 38. But her gaze looked like it belonged to someone who had survived storms and learned to build roofs. "I don't hate these," she whispered. "High praise," Saffron said dryly. Adrian's voice came low by her ear. "That one," he said, pointing to a frame where she stood with arms crossed, blazer open, chin lifted. "That's the one." "The one what?" she asked. "The one that made me decide," he said. Her pulse quickened. "Decide what?" He looked at her, eyes serious. "That our stand-in," he said, "isn't a stand-in. She's a subject." Saffron's grin was feral. "Oh, he's doing it," she crowed. "He's locking it in, people." Nora's head spun. "Wait," she said. "We agreed these were tests." "We did," Adrian said, "and the test proved something. The camera loves you more when you stop apologizing. That's rare. I won't waste it." Panic clawed at her. "I'm not ready to decide that," she said. "It's my face. My life. You can't just—" "You're right," he cut in gently. "I'm sorry. That was heavy-handed." He looked away, jaw working. When he looked back, his eyes were softer. "Consider this a formal offer," he said. "Separate from this test. Take the night. Think about it. If you say no, we delete every frame. If you say yes, we build a cover story around a woman who walked through fire and came out carrying her own water." Her throat tightened. He'd seen more of her in a day than Logan had in years. "Why does it matter so much to you that it's me?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated. "Because last night," he said, "I watched a man try to reduce you to a punchline. And today I watched you stand under lights that were built to expose you, and instead you expanded. That arc?" He gestured between the monitors and her. "That's the story I want to tell." The room buzzed around them, people sharing files, adjusting schedules, talking shot lists. Nora stared at her own face on the screen. The woman looking back at her was not the woman who'd flinched at Logan's words. She was the woman who'd told him to say it to her face. The woman who'd answered a billionaire's text. The woman who'd stepped onto this set, even though her fear had screamed at her to run. She didn't say yes. Not yet. But she also didn't say no. "Send me the files," she said. "All of them. I'll sit with them." Adrian nodded, You'll have them within the hour. As she gathered her things at the end of the day, exhaustion crashing over her, Saffron hugged her without warning. "You did good, Hayes," she said into her shoulder. "Whatever you decide, remember how today felt. Not how you think you looked, how you felt." On the subway home, Nora scrolled through the photos on her phone. She zoomed in, zoomed out. Her critical voice tried to take over. But another part of her, the one that had looked into that lens and refused to flinch, held steady. She didn't know that while she was staring at her own image, a different set of images was already in motion. Someone at last night's dinner had posted a video clip of Logan's too-old-to-date speech on a private story. Someone else had screen-recorded and shared it. By the time Nora stepped off the train, the clip had been reposted twice in a small but influential corner of the internet, a forum dedicated to calling out ageism in media. Captioned simply, "Found in the wild, startup bro explaining how women expire, sound on if you hate your soul." The storm hadn't hit yet, but the clouds were gathering. Nora found out the way everyone did, through a push notification she hadn't asked for. She was halfway through reheating leftover pasta, hair scraped into a bun, face scrubbed clean, pajamas on. Her plan for the night: eat, overanalyze test shots, maybe cry, sleep. Her phone buzzed, trending, "Too old to date. Startup bro dragged for misogynistic rant." She frowned, unlocking her phone. A news app she barely remembered downloading was pushing a story from a culture blog. A still image of Logan's face, frozen mid-sneer, sat above the headline. Her stomach dropped. "Oh no," she whispered. She tapped. The article loaded, complete with an embedded 30-second clip, shaky phone footage from the engagement dinner. The caption: "This man really said the quiet part out loud." Nora hit play. There he was. Same suit, same glass, same words. "I'm just being honest. Nora's almost 40. That's retirement age on the dating apps." Her own voice, faint but clear. "Say it again, Logan. I want to hear how proud you are." The clip cut off there, mercifully. Beneath it, reactions were already piling up. Midnight memoir. "Women over 40 are the backbone of this economy. This dude is the expired product. Quiet but petty. Imagine building a company with someone, then having him talk about you like this. Jail. Age is power. Funny he thinks he has options. That hairline is on a deadline, King." Nora sank onto her couch. Her cheeks burned, not from Logan's words this time, but from the idea of strangers peering into the worst moment of her year, dissecting it. Her phone buzzed again. Lena. "Nora, do not panic too late." Nora. "How big is it?" Lena. "It's not like national news big, but it's big in the startup gossip sphere. Someone leaked the clip from last night. They blurred your face but used your first name." "I'm so sorry." Nora chewed her lip, blurred her face. Small mercy. Another text came in, this time from an unknown number that turned out not to be unknown at all. "You're trending." A she exhaled shakily. "I noticed," she replied. "You're not responsible for this, right?" A beat. "No, but I won't pretend I'm mad about the timing." She blinked. "Excuse me?" "Sometimes the universe accelerates what I was already planning." A new notification pinged. This time it was from a different app. Tide magazine, "Age is Power," coming next week. She clicked through. Heat surged up her spine. On the magazine's official Instagram, a teaser graphic pulsed in their signature teal. "What if women didn't expire?" Below it, the caption: "Next week, we're talking to women over 40 who are rewriting the rules. Because age isn't a deadline, it's a plot twist." The comments were already filling with fire emojis and "finally" and "about time." Her fingers shook as she switched back to Adrian's thread. "This is about your cover, isn't it?" she typed. "Partly," he replied. "Partly about a larger conversation I'm happy to see trending. But the timing is interesting. She paced her small living room. This is insane, she muttered. I didn't sign up to be a symbol in a culture war. I signed up to pick fonts. Her phone rang. Adrian. She hesitated, then answered. Hello? Hey, he said, voice warm through the speaker. Just checking that you're not hyperventilating into a paper bag. I don't own any paper bags, she said weakly. Just reusable totes. Very eco-conscious panic. He chuckled. That's good. Listen, I know this feels invasive, but this clip, this story, was coming whether we existed or not. The question is, do you want to let the narrative stay where it is, anonymous woman humiliated by jerk, or do you want to steer it? She pressed a hand to her forehead. You mean, claim it, she said. As in, hi Internet, I'm Nora, the woman your new punching bag hates. Here's my face. In less snarky words, yes, he said. The thought made her nauseous. But what if people turn on me, she reasoned. The comments are supportive now. That could change fast. The Internet loves a villain, but it hates women who step out of their assigned victim role. He didn't deny it. You're right, he said. It's a risk, but we can mitigate. We frame this as a conversation about ageism, not revenge. You come in as a voice of reason, not rage. And in a week when that cover drops, the story crystallizes. She stopped pacing. When? She repeated. You're speaking like I've already agreed. Haven't you? He asked quietly. Silence stretched. She thought of her face on the monitors, of the way she'd stood, chin high, refusing to apologize, of Logan's words replaying forever if she did nothing. I haven't sent that yes email, she said. You texted me instead, he pointed out. Which is louder? Despite herself, she smiled. Is this how you close all your deals? She asked. Emotional blackmail and flattery. Only the important ones, he said. Her heart pounded. What would claiming it look like? She asked. An interview, he said. You talk to one of our senior writers under embargo. You tell your story on your terms. No names if you don't want. We connect your experience to the larger age is power feature. When the cover drops, the Internet doesn't just see a woman who got back at her ex. They see someone who turned humiliation into a platform. She quoted him in her head. I offer doors. You choose whether to walk. I don't want this to be about revenge, she said. I mean, yes, part of me wants him to choke on his own words, but if that's all there is, it's shallow. I want something more. Then we make it more, he said simply. She closed her eyes. Fear still whispered its usual script, but something louder had begun to speak. What about Logan? She asked. He'll know it's me. He'll say I'm using you. Using this. Adrian's voice cooled. Let him, he said. Men like him are used to controlling the spotlight. Losing it will sting. That's not your responsibility. Is he important to your business? She asked. I saw in the article they mentioned his startup, Hayes Link. One of your venture funds is listed as a lead investor. He paused. You've done your homework, he said. I read, she said, compulsively. Hayes Link is a portfolio company, he said, early stage, promising tech, mediocre leadership. Our fund can weather whatever fallout comes from this. Guilt pricked her. I don't want to tank your investment, she said. You're not tanking anything, he replied. He is, with his own mouth. Besides, we were already evaluating his fit. This just clarifies the data. She sank onto the couch. It was surreal, hearing someone talk about Logan as a line item instead of a sun around which everything orbited. So, Adrian said gently, what do you want to do, Nora? She looked at the test shots on her phone again, at the woman who had weathered 20 years of being told her value had a countdown clock, at the headlines forming in real time. I told everyone my ex-wife was too old to date. Bro gets dragged. What if there was a companion headline? Too old to date. Ex-wife. Stuns on magazine cover redefining prime. Her stomach flipped, not entirely from fear. "Okay," she said, voice shaking but clear. "I'll do the interview. I'll say yes to the cover. Full yes. Use my name." Silence. Then a breath she realized Adrian had been holding. "Good," he said. "I'll have my team call you in 20 minutes. We'll record tomorrow, embargoed until the issue launches." She exhaled, a laugh tangled with it. "I think I just changed my life in pajamas." "I've made worse decisions in less clothing," he said lightly. "You're doing something important." Before she could respond, another text popped up, this time from Logan. "We need to talk." Her spine went rigid. Adrian's voice dropped. "Let me guess," he said. He reached out. "How did you—" "It's what cowards do when the internet stops laughing with them and starts laughing at them," he said. "What did he say?" She read the text aloud. "We need to talk." 3 words, loaded with all the old power dynamics. "Do I respond?" she asked. "That's up to you," he said. "But remember, you owe him nothing, not clarity, not closure, not comfort." Old Nora would have answered immediately. Old Nora would have smoothed things over, reassured him she knew he didn't mean it, put his reputation ahead of her own feelings. New Nora, the one who'd stared down a camera and survived, thought of something else. She typed slowly. "We don't. Hit send." Her heart raced. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "You're blowing this out of proportion. That clip is taken out of context. Call me." She didn't reply. Instead, she forwarded the text to Adrian. "You're enjoying this too much," she said into the phone. "I'm enjoying watching you set boundaries," he corrected. "That's different." "Feels the same," she muttered. "Nora," he said, suddenly serious, "when this issue drops, there will be noise, hate, praise, hot takes. It will get messy. But in the middle of all that, I want you to remember something very simple." "What?" "You're not the one on trial," he said. "He is. Ageism is. You are the evidence that their narrative is wrong." Something inside her steadied. "Okay," she said. "Let's make them regret underestimating us." "That," he said, satisfaction threading his voice, "is the energy I need on set tomorrow." As they hung up, Nora caught her reflection in the black screen of her phone. Her eyes looked scared. They also looked determined. The universe, it seemed, had opened the door and shoved her through. Now there was no going back. And that, my friend, is how a woman labeled too old to date ended up on a magazine cover with a billionaire standing behind her, not in front of her. Logan thought he was being funny. He thought he was just telling the truth. But the truth has a way of circling back, and this time it hit him harder than any clapback ever could. He lost the company, he lost control of the narrative, and he was forced to watch the woman he'd written off become the face of a new kind of prime. If Nora's story moved you, even just a little, do me a favor, hit like, so this message reaches more people who need it. Click subscribe if you want more long, dramatic stories where karma doesn't just knock, it kicks the door in. And tell me in the comments, what's one thing you've been told you're too old for, that you refuse to give up? Your story isn't over.